Welcome to Cypress Creek Adventures. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode. This week we're going to talk about some gardening tips and plant some fall garlic and talk about some of the fall plants that you can have and you can keep till things get really cold. So let's get right to it. Okay, this is my garden spot. And I have it all fenced in around the edge, keep the rabbits and smaller animals from coming in here. So right here I have some Swiss chard and some kale. And attempted to have some late peas, but the weather's just not been cooperating very well. In this section here where I've got this worked up is where we'll plant some garlic. And we'll go step by step on how to do that. And I've been about 3 years planting my own garlic, and it's been very nice to have. Okay, on this end of the garden, I keep a lot of flowers and I let it kind of run wild. And it gets a little bit overgrown, but I let the volunteers come up and move them around and keep the weeds down. And then at some point, I let it go, and I get a lot of hummingbirds and butterflies. And really enjoy this, and I watch them from the house. And I have also gladiolas that I plant in here, and several other things. There's sweet pea and morning glories, and a whole bunch of big variety of flowers that I keep on this end. These bulbs here are the gladiola bulbs, and I dig them up every year. And my grandfather used to grow these for a florist, he and a friend of his, back in New Jersey. When I was growing up, there was a beautiful sight to see them out in the field. And this right here is just one last holdout. And I cut it the other day and only had just a little teeny bloom here, and I've had it in the house to save it. And it's very pretty. I really enjoy those. So also, I have my father always grew amaryllis, so I put the bulbs in the garden in the summertime, and then I get these little babies, and they'll eventually be this size. This one here is probably about 4 or 5 years old that I've grown, and I let it die back and then plant it into December or January, and it puts up very pretty flowers to have in the winter. This is the garlic that I dug out of the garden I grew last year, and as you can see, it's got a fairly nice size. I've had experimented and had several people give me tips and stuff, and so the method that I use now to grow garlic worked very well this year, and I'm very happy with it. It's got some big bulbs here. There's not a lot of garlic, but for me, for one person, I'd rather use all this up, and I keep it in a cool, dark place all winter. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the best bulbs, and we're going to use those for seed, and we'll use that to plant. And we always plant garlic in the fall. Okay, this is my garden spot, and as you can see, I keep my rows pretty close together. Once I've rototilled this in the spring, I keep my rows pretty tight, about 1 foot or 18 inches apart. So I don't use a rototiller, I do everything by hand. And so from this end down here, as we were looking before, where this ground has been dug up, that's where I dug the gladiolas. And from there to the left here is usually all flowers. And then the rest of this is beans and tomatoes and onions and all the stuff that I grow, and squash. But this spot here I've got prepared, and this is where we're going to plant our garlic. Okay, as you know, I've got chickens, so we use the chicken manure and a litter that I clean out of the coops. And then I have wood stove, so I have some ashes. And we'll put this in the trench in different layers. And the rule of thumb on fertilizer and lime is you always put fertilizer down and lime on top. And so we're going to dig a trench here, and then we're going to put the chicken manure and the chicken litter and a little bit of ashes in the trench, and then cover the trench partially, and then plant our bulbs. Okay, so now we're going to take and put this chicken litter in here and get it spread out through the length of the trench. Okay, the next step now, we got our chicken manure in here. We're going to pull down some of this loose earth and cover this up with about a couple inches of soil and tamp it down. And then we'll put a little bit of ash. I'm not going to use that whole bucket, but we'll put a little bit of ash on top of that, and then pull down a couple more inches of the earth, pack it down, and then we'll be ready for our bulbs. Okay, now it's time to go through the garlic here and pick out the best bulbs. And we got some that are bigger. I'm kind of leaning towards this one right here. I like it. It's got some bigger ones here. So another one here. When I store this garlic, I never wash it or anything. I leave the dirt right on it, and it'll last for a lot longer. It'll dry out. Some people know how to do the fancy braids and stuff. For me, you know, I put it away and I know where they are, and come out with some scissors or a knife and cut a piece off when I'm ready for it. So I'll pick out some of these good bulbs. We'll get maybe about a dozen, and then we'll be back and we'll be ready to put them in the trench. Okay, I picked out the best of what I had, and this was just 2 heads. I put a quarter in there so you could tell the size of the cloves. And this isn't elephant garlic. This is garlic I bought right at the grocery store 3 years ago, and every year I get to take the best and replant it. So we'll go with these, and that'll be a lot of garlic if we get that many big heads again next year. Okay, so we got our garlic bulbs planted, and might have had a couple more on the other end just to fill out the row. But we had 14 bulbs in there. We keep them 4 or 5 inches apart, and I keep them covered up with about 6 inches of soil. And when they come up in the spring, then I'll pull the dirt up around them, and then later the garlic will throw what's called a scape, which is the flower. And once it try to flower, you want to break those off so that all the strength goes into the bulb, and it'll keep on growing. And you can eat the scapes; they're very good. They're just like a green onion, but garlic. So we shouldn't waste them, and I enjoy them. And so I have one more little tip here about how to get rid of fruit flies in your house. Everybody has fruit flies in the house, and they're a very nuisance. And the one thing that you can do is very simple. You can just take a shallow dish like this, or a bowl. Doesn't have to be white, it can be anything. And we're going to take and put 2 drops of liquid Dawn, or even cheap detergent works. And we're going to take regular cider vinegar, and we're going to pour this in here. We're going to get this about half full, and we're going to use what God made us to stir with. You set that on your counter somewhere out of the way, and what it'll do, it attracts the fruit flies, and they'll drown themselves. And you'll be amazed if you have a whole bunch of them and you set this out within an hour or so, you've caught most all of them. And what the liquid detergent does, it breaks the sheen on the top here of the vinegar. They're attracted to the vinegar, but if there wasn't any soap in here, they could just land on there and take off again. They're so little. But it breaks the sheen, so when they land on it like that, or even come in on the side, they fall in and then they drown. So that's my tip for taking care of those. And it's very simple, and it's something everybody can do, and you don't have to leave it out in the way. You can put it where you have your, like, around your sink, or where you have bananas and other fruit bowls and stuff, and it'll take care of your problem. Well, that's it for this week's adventure. Glad you tuned in, and hope you learned something about garlic. There's many different ways to plant garlic. This trench method is what I've adopted, and it's been very successful, especially last year. I was very pleased with the size of the cloves and the heads of the garlic, and look forward to having another good harvest in next summer. So please tune in next week. Please subscribe to the channel and like and share. I appreciate you watching. God bless.